this fiduciary clause, or the other point is how others have dealt this examining body and the examiner list, as a fiduciary situation.
So on this score, the point which you raised to Mr. Colin Gonzalez, the relationship between a client and an advocate. Now here, what Mr. Devdan says is a relationship between the government as a client and the Advocate General as an advocate. Now, if we take some decisions, I'm talking about the Information Commission, that yes, this shall be given because it involves corruption cases, then this is something like opening out subjective interpretation of a particular section and not necessarily objective. The moment you say yes on one count, then there is no bar to give it on count number 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Now coming back to the same reference, let us say somebody comes and says, yes, I've done something which is a cognizable offence to be taken cognizance of. Should that be revealed by him to the police or not? Now, the Constitution itself mandates that the Act itself mandates that it is the citizen's duty to inform that something is going to happen. Go and prevent it. Now, there is again a conflict here.
Which Act mandates?
No, it is the Police Act, for example. The police. I'm talking about police, not. It shall be done. Now, if we take recourse to the RTI and says it is under fiduciary capacity, he has done it. Therefore, what he has done is right. Then we are confronting the Police Act, where it is the bounden duty of the citizen to inform the appropriate authorities to prevent a cognizable offence going to take place. Now, this is a little bit of a conflict. Where you draw a line, yes, we have to debate.
Can I just say here that that might not be such a problem because the RTI Act really says it overrides all other acts.
Okay.
But it still remains a moral problem. I mean,
yeah,
we can't sort it. But if I could just add out here, the issues that you raised, etc., etc. I think that where making information public can be prevented under some other laws. For example, you were talking about the information given by the Attorney General, etc. Now, the next clause we were going to discuss, say, investigation. You can prevent it under that if you feel that, look, this information will allow. I mean, I remember a simple case where one commissioner of income tax one day came to me in early days and said, sir, I asked them, please tell me the dates that you are raiding my house, but they're not telling me. I said, obviously, they're not going to tell you when they're going to raid your house. So that doesn't have to be in fiduciary. That has to be. So I think we have to be very strict about what we use this for and not get carried away with the fact that this is called a harm, so let's bring it. But let's look at the other things and see where it can be prevented. Shall I, before, if you don't, sir,
Thank you. The term used here is privileged information. Now, privileged information need not always and necessarily be given in the context of a fiduciary relationship. There are differences, very subtle nuances there. Protection for information exchange in the context of lawyer-client, doctor-patient, and husband and wife has been there in India for a long time. The Indian Evidence Act protects the information exchange between a client and a lawyer, except in the context which you mentioned, sir. If there is an indication of a cognizable offence having been committed, then lawyer cannot claim privilege over that information and refuse to disclose. So that is always there. Similarly, in the context of a husband-wife relationship, whenever there is a disclosure of information related to cognizable offence, and that information must be given, there is no protection in it. Similarly, the Medical Council of India regulations protect the information that is exchanged between a doctor and a patient, and therefore that relationship has been examined in several cases. Some of the important ones like Mr. X and hospital Y. There is one such case in the context of HIV/AIDS related matter where a doctor was under obligation to reveal to potential spouse that the person she was getting married to is HIV infected, which that person had refused to disclose. So there are some of these complicated issues. What I would like to flag for your discussion here is the very wording of 8(1)(e) and how does it relate to the first sentence of 8(1). Because in 8(1) it says, notwithstanding anything contained in this act, there shall be no obligation to give any citizen. Who has this obligation has to be understood from the context of the overall context of the RTI Act, which is the public authority that receives an information request, because they have to make a decision on whether to grant information or not. The public information officer is merely a representative exercising that function. So it is a responsibility of the public authority. You link it to 81E. Now here, it says that the information is available